Hi, this is Dr. Parker. Today I want to go over some things that are related to sugar regulation issues. People are used to going to a doctor who looks at you just linearly. You got this problem, we're going to give you this drug. You have this problem, we're going to give you this drug. We have this problem, we're going to send you out and have this looked at. So they don't look at the big picture, and so what I want to do today is go over the big web of physiological dysfunction related to sugar regulation. Sugar regulation is probably one of the top priorities to fix if you're having problems with it because of the impact it has on our entire body. And I'm going to go over some things with that, but I also want you to know the biggest problem with sugar regulation is it causes such brain dysfunction. Sugar regulation issues affect our ability to produce neurotransmitters. It causes a lot of inflammatory processes in the brain. It leads to fatigue. Your brain needs regulated fuel in the form of glucose. It needs activation by activities and thinking and reading and driving good input into your brain. And it needs physical activity. And your brain also needs oxygenation, good fuel. So when we look at problems with increased glucose levels or fluctuations in glucose levels, very, very common. Diabetes is rampant in the United States. It's going to cripple in the next 10 to 15 years our healthcare system because of the effects of it. So when we look at problems with increased glucose levels, I want to look at different areas, okay? I know I don't have a big fancy PowerPoint slide, but I figure if you can't draw it out, you don't know what you're talking about. So I'm not saying that people use PowerPoints are like that. I just like to draw it out, okay? The first thing is increased glucose levels causes a thing called hypothalamic leptin resistance. Now, most people have never heard about that. They know about insulin resistance because their medical doctor says, you're pre-diabetic, you're becoming insulin resistant. But leptin resistance is when you have increased glucose levels and increased hormonal levels of leptin, which is a hormone that goes to our hypothalamus and signals, hey, we're not hungry, we've had enough. But if you have high levels of leptin all the time, the receptor sites downregulate and become less effective and efficient. Therefore, they're resistant to high levels of leptin, and therefore you have increased appetite. So there's some things you have to really work on to fix sugar regulation issues. And the first part of it you always have to work on, is it a problem because I'm overeating? Because I have leptin resistance. Okay. The next thing is increased glucose levels cause a problem with insulin receptor site resistance. Everybody knows that insulin has a function, and the function is to carry sugar from the bloodstream and into the cells. If you have high levels of glucose all the time, you become downregulated in your receptor sites, and they become resistant to proper amounts of insulin or excesses amounts. So it takes more and more to drive them to carry it into the cell. So the cells start becoming resistant to sugars. The other thing that starts happening is that insulin resistance can drive activation of adipocytes because it takes so much sugar, so much insulin to drive that sugar into the cell, they drive too much. Another area of increased glucose levels, it causes a problem with increased cortisol responses and increased aldosterone responses. So fluctuating levels of cortisol can cause problems with glucose levels and inability to regulate your sugars. So what causes high levels of cortisol? One of the big ones is stress, inability to get rid of stressors. And it drives the adrenals, which sits on top of your kidneys, to release excess levels of cortisol all the time. Another thing you would have increased levels of cortisol from, hidden inflammation, hidden infections. Many, many people who come see me with chronic health conditions have problems with their adrenals because of hidden infections and chronic inflammation. Another thing is increased aldosterone response related to glucose level dysregulation. Aldosterone affects the pH of your body. you develop what they call a functional pH acidosis. This is one of the reasons we monitor morning pH levels, and we wanted to see it between 6.4 and 7.0. Functional acidosis causes electrolyte imbalances. Your sodium, potassium. It causes problems with blood pressure. So people tend to have problems with, they have sugar regulation, they have problems with functional kidney. And what they end up with is high blood pressure. The next thing we have is what's called NF-kappa beta activation. That is an activation of your immune system related to glucose level dysregulation. It causes increased glycosylation. Well, everybody knows what A1C is, right? That's the test the doctor runs to monitor me. Well, glycosylated end products are what causes high A1C. So activation of your immune system, that leads to a problem called leaky gut. So it affects the ability of the membrane of the gut to keep the immune system from being activated. So leaky gut is related to glycosylated end products, and also is related to high cortisol levels. When you have leaky gut, I run a test from Cyrex Labs, and that test looks at the permeability of your gut system, and it looks at your immune system's activation in your gut. And is it triggering the barrier system to be broken down and allowing foreign bodies, particles of proteins that are larger than they should, stimulating from a viral infection or gut infection, your immune system to be activated. And it can lead to dysbiosis and an overactive immune system. Overactive immune system can attack things. It can attack your thyroid. It can attack your myelin sheath. It can attack your insulin receptor sites. It can attack your brain. So parts of your brain like cerebellum, and you get uncoordinated thoughts and thinking. And it leads to what's called dysbiosis. One of the tests I run on people is a 2105 DNA stool profile from Metametrics, and we look to see, do you have the normal gut flora? Do you have, if you do, you have normal biosis of the gut. But if you have dysbiosis, you don't have the normal immune system protection in the gut. Dysbiosis and increased glucose levels can lead to a hepatic impairment, meaning the liver isn't able to clear out and help with clearing out of excess hormones, helping with sugar regulation, breaking down fats, getting rid of them, utilizing them as fuel, and clearing out toxins. And when you have hepatic impairment, you can have increased estrogen and you can have increased testosterone. But the problem is it's increased testosterone in a female and increased estrogen in a male. If we come over to insulin receptor site, you get insulin surges, and those insulin surges can drive a male hormone shift where they're converting their testosterone through aromatase factors into estrogen. And in females, it just does the opposite. It creates and it drives their estrogens into testosterone. Several problems and a reflection of how bad it is and rampant in our society is not only glucose levels rampantly out of control, but if you look, a lot of the things in our drug chain are related to this problem right here. Look how common it is to promote Viagra, dysfunction, vascular supplies. Why are they having the other problems? They're having vascular supply issues from sugar regulation issues, blood pressure problems. They're having a male hormone shift from testosterone into estrogen. And they're telling you that you just need to take a simple drug and it's going to fix that problem. It's not going to fix this chain of dysfunction. It's going to take one segment and it's going to work on that symptom, but it's not changing the underlying factors. Let's see here. If we missed anything, I want to just review. The other thing is the problem with having the shift from males into estrogen and females into testosterone is those hormones, if they're normal levels in a male and normal in a female, normal levels of testosterone for the male, normal levels of estrogen in the female, are very cardioprotective. But when you get that shift, you're at very high risk for a cardiac event. Glycosylated end products, very high risk. If your A1C is high, you know you have a problem with sugar regulation. You're at a much higher risk for a cardiac event because your cholesterol and triglycerides get shifted. Electrolyte imbalances, that's another one. And so when we look at people, we have to break it down into the areas of dysfunction and start supporting through lifestyle changes and nutritional pathways to support these areas of dysfunction. Not just saying, hey, take Viagra, take metformin, take these drugs, because those are just patches to fix. They're not working to fix you, they're working to just patch up different areas of the web of dysfunction. And that's because they use a linear model versus a web of dysfunction. In our office, we use a web of dysfunction to look at you. We use surveys so we can figure out where is your body system breaking down. We use surveys to look at the areas that aren't working properly. We may supplement based on those surveys. We run specific labs that are very advanced to look at dysbiosis, gut infections, liver impairment. We look at pH in the morning to see if your pH is within a good functional reference range, because your kidneys have such an impact on the power of the body. The kidneys are part of the power factor, what we call the power zone of the body. So we look at those different areas versus saying, oh, you need to lose a little bit of weight and you need to take this pill. We look at where are things not working so that we can get you back on track. And it's not only do you start feeling better, but functionally you get to a much higher level of health. And that's our two goals in our office. Of course I want you to feel better, but I want you to achieve a much higher level of health than you've been taught how to. And the problem is you've been taught by a paradigm that says, hey, just take this pill and you're going to be okay. And for chronic health conditions, we're dismally failing in the United States. And one of my jobs is to help you understand what's wrong, the reasons why you're having this problem, and how to achieve a higher level of health. Thank you very much.